All right, so let's go into the next video, which is just as crazy. It begins. Trump buses migrants back to New Mexico. Jesus, man, it's late. It begins, ... Trump buses migrants back to Mexico by Cash Jordan. I am really interested to see what this one's about.
Mexican nationals also being sent back across the border. Mexico setting up the first of 9 migrant centers.
News Nation cameras captured buses of Mexican nationals deported back to Reynosa, Mexico.
So, President Trump's promised deportations are now taking place across the country. And in a shocking turn of events, Mexico is now building shelters for the thousands of visitors they expect to receive in the coming weeks. A move that mirrors...
That's crazy, dude. Oh my God. That's crazy. Countries are having to build shelters for their own people. That's wild.
New York City's construction of shelters for that very same purpose within the past 2 years. And with the new border czar overseeing this historic mass immigration crackdown, anyone who's a threat to our country is now very worried about what will happen next.
I'm not going back to Haiti.
One of those threats is this illegal alien from Haiti. ICE says he's a gang member with 17 criminal convictions.
First, it starts with an arrest by ICE agents. Then, immigrants are taken to be detained at more than 100 local ICE facilities. From there, they may have a chance to go before a judge and plead their case.
I love the may have a chance. Look, they are illegal immigrants. As much as people want to justify people being here illegally and committing crimes, they're criminals and they're here illegally. They should leave, as would any country. If I went to Thailand right now, you guys, which I was there, people, so like, I know there's going to be haters from me making this comment. I was in Thailand, lived there for a long time. If you came there and you acted like an asshat and you were from America, do you know what happened? You got kicked out almost instantaneously, or you went to prison. One of the two options. It's not like you just get free lunch as an American everywhere else, and everywhere else is a sanctuary, and this is the only thing that's happening in America. No, this is happening you go to Mexico. You go to Mexico and you commit crimes as a white guy. Guess what happens? You're out. I don't know why this is any different.
Even more deportations are expected to ramp up in the coming weeks. These are among the first Mexican nationals to be deported under the Trump administration after being processed by Mexican authorities.
Well, what we've seen over the last few weeks is a lot of fear-mongering that when Trump takes office, everyone's going to be deported en masse. That's simply not the case.
The president's been clear on this. We're going to concentrate on public safety threats. This election proves that the American people support the removals of criminal aliens in this country.
If a judge agrees that the person should be deported, ICE will fly them to one of 4 staging areas. Parents who have had children in the United States will have to decide if their children are deported with them or left behind.
That is rough. I don't even know what you would be doing as a parent in that situation, what thoughts would be going through your head. Because, you know, even once you get there, even once you get to the other side, it is not going to be easy. If they're putting up shelters for their own civilians, this is the Mexican government we're talking about. That, like, you are going to be in a tough spot. They arrested 1,000 illegal immigrants on Sunday alone. Holy shit. It's nowhere near enough. We're talking about multi-millions, but I just, you know, it's going to be a tumultuous time. I don't think there's any clean way to do this, just like war. If we have to defend this country, it's going to be a tumultuous and disgusting time, and this is like we're defending this country. I'm mixed. Which part of me has to leave? Dude, the lower half of you. Unfortunately, that means your penis as well. You get cut in half, brother.
So ICE agents are on the move, arresting hundreds of people in sanctuary cities, including New York. And what none of the activist leaders running our sanctuary cities will admit is that if we don't deport the gang members and criminals from our country, it's just going to become more dangerous for law-abiding immigrants. Something nobody in their right mind would ever be in favor of. However, right now, the open borders crowd is advocating for a halt to this new immigration crackdown, which would be bad news for New York City, which has seen over 200,000 immigrant arrivals, many of whom did not come here to be criminals, but who are now being targeted by criminals who've entered our country fraudulently posing as asylum seekers. Like Venezuela's Tren de Aragua gang, these guys are experts in human exploitation, and they've been preying upon other asylum seekers and immigrants all across New York City since this crisis began. But that's not all. Here in New York City, looting and theft ravage small businesses in middle-class neighborhoods like Jackson Heights, Queens, where the streets are overrun by vendors and merchants selling items that still have the security tags on them from stores like Home Depot. On top of that, the person selling those items, they may not be on the streets selling stolen things just because they want to, but rather because criminals have told them that they better earn money to pay off debts to the cartels and gangs that helped them cross the border in the first place. And that brings us to the real reason why deportations targeting criminals are getting so much pushback from the very cities harboring them. These crackdowns are going to work, but as they work and the streets of these dangerous sanctuary cities get cleaned up, those in favor of how America's last president handled immigration will lose what little grip they have left on power. Power they derive from frightening immigrant communities across America, making the law-abiding who are legal U.S. residents think the new president is out to get them. When, as you're about to see, this crack...
Yeah, it's going to weaponize a lot of legal immigrants against Trump, possibly. I actually know quite a few immigrants myself that are here legally that love this shit personally. I know a lot of them that love this shit from many Middle Eastern countries, as well as European countries, as well as Mexico, and they love it. They eat this shit up. They think it's hilarious because they get screwed over and their reputation gets ruined. But I can also see how media would try to weaponize this against those individuals to create a very bad imagery or an optic to Donald Trump himself, because it's like, hey, look what he's doing to your people. He's coming for all of them. These guys aren't that bad of criminals, and he's coming for all of them. But in reality, these are people who have literally felonies worth, like multiple felonies worth of criminal activity. I'm sure all of them don't. I don't know the exact specificity of all of these issues, but I can't imagine that these are good people.
Crackdown is focused on the gang members and criminals making America worse for everybody. So here we are at the Port Authority bus terminal, and what's shocking about these recent immigration developments is that the idea of busing people back to the border from sanctuary cities is the exact opposite of what's been taking place, at least here in New York, for the last 2 years. There was one day last year when New York City received 14 buses from Texas carrying newly arrived asylum seekers. But now, buses from America will be going the opposite direction as ICE carries out deportations designed to rid America of dangerous individuals who are going to be sent back to their country of origin.
No shot she's an immigrant.
Designed
You guys think she's an immigrant?
to rid
I'm going to say no shot. I don't think she's a born American, or at least born again American. I think this guy has a motive. Out everything is not. Man, spelling here is wicked. Everything is not as bad as it's making it sound. Sounds like he may be anti-Trump, making it sound like Trump's political policies will be the downfall of everything. The guy on the screen sensationalizes a lot of what's happening. He's mastered the algorithm. He really has. He's good at this content. I'm older than you guys, and I remember when almost all roofers were African Americans. Those times are long gone. Our Mexicans build every house I work on in Alabama, at least. Not trying to be crazy, but I see it every day. Well, of course they do. There's a reason for that. More jobs in America, I don't see the problem. No. I agree with you. I think generally, here's the issue. Americans are going to have to learn to accept not making 6 figures a year, right? And I think every kid and their mother who goes to college wants 6 figures a year. I don't know what's happening on the ground, right? I don't know what's actually going through these people's minds. More jobs is a good thing, especially in Canada. Canada should take a note of this because holy shit, there it's really bad. But yes, Americans do need to step up and fill these positions.
To rid America of dangerous individuals who are going to be sent back to their country of origin, and as it turns out, many of these folks are headed back to Mexico.
Now take a look at this new video here. News Nation cameras captured buses of Mexican nationals deported back to Reynosa, Mexico. 3 new shelters are among to set to open soon in Reynosa, Matamoros, and Nuevo Laredo, Mexico. Each facility.
And the shelters Mexico is building to house these people, they can hold around 2,500 people each, which is a similar capacity to the emergency shelters that were built right here in New York within the last year. And what this must mean is that Mexico is expecting a historic number of people to be repatriated. Otherwise, why would they be copying New York City by building the exact same types of shelters that we built here when the asylum...
Truth is, it could have been avoided and less messier by addressing it sooner, but now this is the best case scenario. Yeah, I think I said this. It's like, it's going to be ugly no matter what. Man, this guy's Tesla's camera is probably going nuts right now. Just so you guys know, Teslas record everything that happens outside of them. I can't imagine how much shit he's getting on his Tesla. You get notifications every time someone's at your Tesla. But yeah, I think it needs to happen, truly. Like, it really, really, really does. It's disgustingly terrible how I think a lot of people who have this like vindication that are like, oh my God, it's not right, and it's so fucked up, and it's all messed up. Go to the places that these people are. Go to Chicago, go to Detroit, go to New York, go to these places and just go there. Walk around the streets and tell me it's fucked up. Tell me you don't feel uncomfortable or unsafe. Tell me seeing fentanyl zombies walking around the streets doesn't make you feel a little bit weird. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous. The jobs that need to be replaced are the extreme and dangerous ones. They're also the reason that houses aren't multi-trillions. Yeah, this is true. And so I said, like, I think Americans need to get used to not making as much or learn how to work more proficiently. You know, another problem with why I don't hire Americans is, sorry, like, so anti-America, but like, it's true, is the same job that I could hire someone from Brazil, Colombia, Thailand, the Philippines, the same job would take twice as long here.
Asylum crisis first began. And the crazy thing about this is if these shelters can hold thousands of people and President Trump's deportation efforts focus on criminals and gang members, that means the vast majority of people in these new shelters in Mexico will be some of the most dangerous people you can find anywhere in America. People who may in fact have been living at New York City's notoriously dangerous Randall's Island shelter. Look at this place. It's a massive tent-like facility. Every time I went there to film, there were always police present, but now it's being shut down. And although this shelter was a verified refuge for gang members, once those gang members get apprehended, they're going to be living in another shelter just like it, only in another part of the world.
First, it starts with an arrest by ICE agents. Then, immigrants are taken to be detained at more than 100 local ICE facilities. From there, they may have a chance to go before a judge and plead their case. Typically, this process has taken weeks if it's fast-tracked, or if not, it has even taken years. If a judge agrees...
So that right there, that is the standard process for how deportations worked in this country up until now. President Trump is making some changes to this whole process that will allow the fast-tracking of individuals out of the country if they can't prove they've been in America for at least 2 years.
I worked as a contractor. The builders are pocketing the majority of the money, and they can pay the workers way more. Yeah, I can tell you from a guy who wants to be a builder that is true. One of my desires in real estate is to get to a point where I'm building properties, like buying shitty properties, tearing them down, and then building new properties. And I can tell you the overhead that some of the guys I've been talking to make is absolutely retarded, and the workers don't get shit. Don't get shit. I went to San Francisco in 2014 and walked through the Tenderloin district by myself. Scary. Yeah. Yeah, dude. Everything like in California, it's just scary.
2 years.
When did live stream start having ads? Geez, it actually happened not too long ago. Sorry about that, guys. I genuinely can't. I've heard a lot of feedback about that. I genuinely can only make them less frequent, but I can't turn them off, which really sucks.
Classification that is going to cover a lot of the criminals that have recently entered our country during the asylum crisis, along with a significant number of people living in sanctuary cities. And according to this New York Times article, this fast-track process will greatly cut down on the costs associated with deportation. And apparently the main cost associated with deportations is the transportation and housing of individuals who are waiting to see an immigration judge. But with this new fast-track process eliminating that for people who cannot prove they've been here for at least 2 years, those costs are going to go way down. And
the guy that's recording this shit, he's just like following people with a camera. I can't imagine how like uncomfortable that makes a lot of these people. He's just like close-upping their shit, watching it, and like following them down the street with like his camera on their suitcases. Like that can't be normal for most people to be witnessing. I guess it is New York, so maybe it is normal. Congrats on monetization or no? Yeah, no, I mean, the channel's been monetized, but normally how live streams worked is you would, the live stream wouldn't produce income. I don't know actually how it worked before. At least on my channel, they weren't able to be monetized until after it had posted. But I assume maybe for bigger YouTubers, it was always. So maybe this is normal, and it's just that I got to a point where YouTube was like, we can monetize live streams now. All I know is I can turn up, I could go intense ad scheduling where it really bombards you guys with ads. I can go medium or I could go low, and I always go low. So I don't even know what that equates to. They don't tell you. I click it.
The U.S. government is going to save a boatload of money carrying out this historic deportation effort. But now critics are saying that this mass deportation agenda, crackdown, whatever you want to call it, they're saying it's not possible to deport millions of people from this country. But if that's true, why are other countries building shelters that can house so many people so quickly? And
I won't lie, like, it's going to take multiple years. If we're only able to do 1,000 a day, that means, let's take a look at this. 1,000, 1 million. Let's just say we have 1 million immigrants illegally. We would need 1,000 days if we did that basically every day of the year for 365 days, getting 1,000 people out. We would need 2.5 years to get 1 million people out of the country. So I don't see this super feasibly happening super fast unless they 10x or quadruple x their like 40, 50x this process. I just don't know how it's going to happen. I've been doing HVAC for these people recently. Imagine 3-story, 4-bedroom in Alabama. This family has been renovating this house for 3 years now. 700K deep and can't stop changing everything. Yeah, I believe that. I've also worked on these cars. Jared Feather absolutely does do troll haircuts.
And how many people were deported under the last presidential administration?
There are between 15 to 20 guards on board, and everyone is shackled, except for children and parents traveling with kids.
In the last year, ICE was able to remove over 270,000 migrants, many of those on planes just like this.
Wow, so over the past year, a presidential administration with very different goals from the current administration, even they were able to deport over 250,000 people, which proves that the new president's deportation plans are possible, even if ICE is forced to do it with one hand tied behind their back. And if ICE needs more resources, well, there are plenty of...
I just can't believe this. It's just like so crazy all this is happening. Anyways.
Empty buses lying around New York City. Extra available transportation is plentiful here, and it's not going to be hard for the next administration to procure. And clearly, America has the resources at its disposal to do this job, even if it is a logistical challenge unlike anything the country's ever faced. And now that federal authorities have been given the green light to go anywhere criminals might be hiding to find them, the demand for extra buses and planes is definitely going to increase.
And today, the Department of Homeland Security announced it is widening the net. A new policy gives ICE agents the green light to conduct enforcement operations in schools, churches, playgrounds, and daycare centers. Those locations used to be off limits.
So all the footage of these ICE raids happening all across the country, none of that is because in the few days since Trump took office that we've built up some mass deportation force with hundreds of thousands of agents. No, this is what happens when federal immigration agents are allowed to do their jobs. And the idea that there were no no-go zones, areas of town or the country where federal agents could not do their jobs and keep people safe, is ridiculous. But apparently those are gone now. A criminal cannot go to a hospital and hide in the emergency room. They can't go to a church and hide under a...
ICE is clearly getting more resources, including federal task force and local law. Yeah, I don't know what this guy's saying. He's basically saying that, yeah, they don't get more resources. They're using what they've always had. And I'm like, no, that's nonsensical. They didn't have, cargo planes to carry people in before. This is ridiculous.
Under a pew bench and act like they've repented when they haven't. And what's also going to be interesting to see is how this affects local police departments like the NYPD, which are banned from cooperating with federal immigration officials. Are federal officials going to enter places the NYPD can't go, like our various asylum shelters, to see who's in there? Let's say ICE knows that a certain gang member or criminal is living in one of New York City's shelters, which is true right now. We know this. If they enter that shelter looking for that individual, they may encounter other individuals who do not have a legal right to be here either. And if that happens, there could be a lot of arrests made in a very short period of time, and that's going to make people who aren't supposed to be in this country and have been ordered to leave to think twice before staying in a highly visible location like one of our shelters here in New York.
Keep in mind those cell phones are track and trace devices, so now they know why they gave them all these phones. They know where they all are. Gotcha. Yeah. Funny enough, Border Patrol, when you're in the military, there was a point in time where the National Guard was deployed to the border, and they were basically everybody that came across, they would get a phone, they would get a free phone and a free check, and they'd basically be told to go crazy. So they all got phones for free. ICE immediately picked some folks up on the highway on 280, and oh wow, as soon as Trump came in, from what I heard. Mass deportations would reduce economic growth, shrink the labor force, and cost U.S.-born workers their jobs, raise costs of nearly all Americans, and risk igniting inflation. Mass deportation harm industries that rely on immigrant labor, leading to job losses for American citizens that work complementary jobs. I mean, that's you could make that statement, but it's hard to say that would actually play out, because things always shift around. Like, we always have this concern about job loss and economic shifts, and then it seems to stabilize around a general curve of inflation. I think that more than likely what's going to happen is there will be a deficit of employees, a very high cost of getting these people out of the country. But then, as most investments do, you see an ROI years into the future. And it's not something that we're doing to play the short game. It's much more the long game. So what's going to be really interesting to me isn't necessarily, because again, in all reality, guys, I don't give a fuck about these people. I'm never going to meet one of them. I'm never going to have my life affected by one of them. If you're around me and I know you and I care about you, like, I care about you, but this isn't affecting me in any kind of way. What I care about is if my life becomes easier, my money goes further, that's great. So in the next 4 years, what's going to be interesting is, do we see this having a positive effect? And also, do we see the next administration continue what is going on right now? Then we'll know what's going to happen.
So behind me right here, this is the Row Hotel. It's one of the city's shelters for asylum seekers. It's supposed to be for families, but as we've been learning, gang members have figured out how to work their way into places just like this. But this is a highly visible 1,000-room facility in the middle of Midtown Manhattan. ICE is going to have an eye on places like this, and they may find out that certain people that they're looking for are residing inside. And that's a situation local progressives are really upset about.
The president's been clear on this. We're going to concentrate on public safety threats. This election proves that the American people support the removals of criminal aliens in this country.
Border czar Tom Homan says migrants who commit crimes will be deported. But Mayor Adams wants New York City's thriving immigrant community to know that...
So the effect of New York trying to remain a sanctuary city in the face of all of these immigration changes and this mass crackdown is going to be that more people get deported from New York, not less. And that's because the NYPD are not going to be around to help when ICE needs to go looking for somebody. They're going to tell ICE to do it on their own time. But what that means is if ICE enters a facility like this or comes here, they're going to encounter people who aren't on their list. In fact, they'll probably encounter people here who are otherwise law-abiding hiding except for the fact that they don't have the legal right to be here anymore and have been ordered to leave. And the border czars made it pretty clear that anybody they find who's here in an unlawful capacity will be arrested. It's just that he's not specifically looking for those people. He's looking for somebody else, but if he finds you and you're with that person or near them, everybody is going to be apprehended. And the fast...
Rough, dude. Collateral damage is crazy. What he's doing is mass punishment. He's weaponizing the people around the illegal immigrants to basically get them to stop supporting the illegal immigrants. Where have we seen that done before, folks? Oh, shit.
Fascinating thing about that is if New York City really cared about immigrants and really wanted to stop deportations, they'd cooperate with ICE and tell them where all the criminals are hiding. And look at this, the NYPD, every single day they've got some sort of vehicle out in front of this place. They know who's here. And if they were to cooperate with ICE and tell them exactly who the national security threats are and where they can be found, ICE would not have to spend as much time or send as many agents here as they will if they don't get any cooperation, greatly limiting the overall number of people they will encounter. And this idea of gang members residing in shelters is not some myth. It's happening all over town, and these gang members are a danger to people who actually have a legitimate asylum claim. Now, admittedly, the new border czar says that over the last 10 years, 9 out of 10 asylum seekers have not had their claims approved. And what this could mean is that soon, after these claims make their way through immigration court, that there are many more people living in New York shelters who are no longer lawfully doing so. Only time will tell if that happens, but the real issue here is public safety in general, because just a few weeks ago, ICE agents raided a gang that was hiding out in a Bronx apartment. And if there are armed gang members living in an apartment and ICE agents enter there, things could get crazy. That could put other people at risk. That's insanely dangerous. And these are people who federal agents had to track down all on their own. That's insanely unsafe for everybody, especially the residents of that apartment. Yet, right now, we're witnessing something very fascinating. And that would be the propaganda that is being put forth by supposedly pro-immigrant advocacy groups about how Donald Trump's plans are fake and how he actually just wants to round up everybody who wasn't born in America. And even though to most of America that sounds absolutely ridiculous, in progressive places like New York, you've got some people who actually believe this stuff and think permanent residents are going to get deported.
But immigrants are still scared.
My mom, she's not a citizen, she's a permanent resident. And again, she's scared. She doesn't know what could happen.
As an attorney, I think that there's definitely a lot of community fear. I am getting called by my clients daily.
Yeah, so unless your mom is a national security threat or is in a gang, I don't see how...
Yeah, I think this is what I was talking about earlier, how it's being weaponized against the current administration, because it's easy to say, well, Trump's coming for everybody, but you know, and then the media inflating that. But the reality is they're pretty clear on who they're trying to target here. National security threats, illegal immigrants, like true illegal immigrants, not just someone with their permanent residency. And as well, they're trying to target people who are associated with illegal immigrants. So if you're fucking, you know, harboring illegal aliens, it's probably not a great idea, but still.
See how any of this could apply to her, especially if she's got a green card. And then we've got this attorney who says that her clients are calling her at all hours of the day, supposedly, and I wonder what she's telling them to calm them down. Because if she knows the law, she would know that people would...
There are enough federal policy changes directed at actual citizens to worry about. They're eyeing veteran benefits and federal jobs. This is not my immediate concern. I hear that. Yeah, I mean, same too, right? Like, I have disability, so as well as I leverage the shit out of the VA loans. Look, and I'll be the first one to tell you, look, veterans, a lot of them make way too much from disability and extrapolate benefit. I don't have to pay property tax. Fun fact. I don't have to put a down payment on any home ever. I get monthly payments every single month for the rest of my life. Fun fact, you know? So there's a lot of shit that I'm like, well, this is crazy. And then there's other people who I know who served less time than me, did nothing, and are getting more disability than I am, right? So like I understand. I think things need to be rebalanced for sure, but you're absolutely right. Like, everything's being targeted right now, which is kind of what I was talking about, is like the soil needs to be churned. The soil needs to be churned, boys. And this is like part of that. I'm going to shower and hit cardio. I'll be back once I get to the gym, if the stream is still up. Dope, dude. Hope you have a good shower and kick some ass in cardio, bro. Burn some motherfucking calories. Sweat your ass off for us, please. For the boys who can't do the cardio.
People with a legal right to stay here have nothing to worry about, and that includes asylum seekers who are waiting for their court date. And even though college-educated progressives have a big problem with Donald Trump's new plans, you know who doesn't? People like this woman who lives in one of New York City's shelters with her children and are terrified of these gang members. They want them gone just as bad as the rest of us. And when you've got people residing in a shelter who are begging for the police to intervene and do something, you know New York has a serious crime problem connected to its status as a sanctuary city, which doesn't do background checks before moving people into a place like this.
Fear-mongering and gaslighting in the communities as organizations, directly or indirectly at the behest of the mayor, have basically been warning people that when Trump takes office, everyone's going to be deported en masse, that if you are jaywalking or going to church or dropping your kids off at school, that you're going to be deported. That's simply not the case.
So this is happening in Chicago, but if you've paid attention to any of the recent protests taking place here in New York, it's the same thing. You've got these quote-unquote activists who say that they're out to protect immigrants, but they're riling people up for absolutely no reason. In fact, all of these crackdowns are going to be a great thing for sanctuary cities because you've got these gangs that are taking advantage of people, making them sell stuff on the side of the street, making them go into CVS and steal stuff, making them, in some cases, ride around on mopeds and commit these...
Yeah, it's crazy how he's showing footage of like black kids with a cop pulling up when he's talking about gangs and people stealing stuff. I'm just going to say that.
Snatch and grab robberies. You know what the gang members are telling people? They meet people in these shelters and they tell them, hey, we know your family back home in Venezuela. If you don't join us, you're going to be an outsider. Something might happen to you, and something...
My nephew got out of the army, told everyone he gets disability. He's getting close to $2K a month. Yeah. Most people are getting $2 to $4K a month from disability.
Might happen to them. A lot of these people are being enlisted and sucked into the criminal underworld, even when they came here without the intention of having anything to do with a life of crime. What do you think about that? Are these crackdowns a good thing for law-abiding immigrants like permanent residents who have nothing to fear from deportation? Let me know. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.
Absolutely wild times. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. You know, I think real talk, the way I look at this is it's an investment strategy for the future. It's not necessarily something that we're going to be proud of now or we're going to be loving now, but come in 5 years' time, I think there's going to be some serious positive benefit from this and a lot of historical recollection of this period of time. Whether that's good or bad, I don't know. But it's true that I think this it's sort of just a long-term investment. It's just we have to wait to see what happens. And unfortunately, we won't know until the days come.